I don't want to drag you too deeply into Taiwan's domestic politics, but I'd still like to get your perspective on something. How do you view you probably get asked this a lot, how do you view the increasingly bitter partisan division within Taiwan's legislature and the message it sends to, the international community?
Okay, follow my logic for a second.
Yeah.
In order to maintain peace, Taiwan has to have international support, okay?
Yeah.
So point number one.
Yes.
Point number two, in order for Taiwan to have international support, it's got to be very clear about what it is and isn't willing to do, about what it wants. So imagine that you're a lawmaker and you're a government, a foreign government, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, we've got problems in that part of the world. We have to deter conflict. We can't allow it to happen. So how do we do that? Well, let's think. What are the tools we have available to us? What do the Taiwanese think, okay? And then you start to throw into the equation doubt about the willingness of Taiwan to defend itself, the willingness of Taiwan to arm itself, what the Taiwanese people want vis-a-vis China. Do you think that doubt is helpful or not for the international support that you must have in order to maintain peace? My answer would be very unhelpful. So here's what I get from people, yeah? I'm not going to say who this was. This is an American lawmaker. It was a dinner. It was a private dinner, so I'm just going to report what was said without saying who it was. He cuts into the dinner and he goes, Taiwan isn't going to fight. And people are like, what do you mean? It's like, I've been there. They're not going to fight. Why should I send my kids to die when they're not going to fight? Right? He would not be saying...
That was really good.
Thank you.
Go on.
It's actually not a bad impression.
That was really good.
Why do you think he was able to say that stuff? He was able to say that stuff because of the confusion which is coming out of the legislative yuan. Now, I want to be really clear about this. It's not for me to tell Taiwanese politicians how to behave.
Right.
But what I can do is I can react to it. And I can say, from the perspective of UK interests, that's super unhelpful. Because how can we possibly cohere an international group of nations to collectively deter escalation in cross-strait tensions when we're not sure about what Taiwan wants? Now, let me be clear. The government's very clear. The government's very clear. But if you've got controversies from the legislative yuan, which are making all this noise and throwing doubt on that, it's not going to help Taiwan internationally.
We tried to kick them out. We failed. Those members in the legislative yuan, it's just not the outcome that I was expecting, nor was I hoping for. Now that you mentioned that one lawmaker from the U.S. who shall remain nameless, I want to ask you this: as political landscapes change dramatically across Europe, North America, Taiwan, I feel like inevitably faces the risk of becoming more isolated internationally. You've argued that Taiwan cannot afford to be like a passive actor for others to, come to its rescue, and that it must clearly articulate what it stands for rather than allow its voice to be marginalized.
Yeah.
So, in your view, what is Taiwan's strongest strategic asset when it comes to making its case to the democratic world?
Prospective economic damage of escalation.
Let's say that again.
All right, so let me stick with this. The thing people care about more than the potential of a war thousands of miles away is their own economies. And it's pretty clear from most of the serious economic forecasting that has been done that if there were to be kinetic conflict here, you would be looking at least 10 trillion, 10% of global GDP wiped off the map, probably getting worse over time. So at least 5 times worse than the Ukraine war, worse than COVID, the economic contraction because of COVID. If you were to ask me, what's going to really change the political debate, it's going to be realization that they have skin in the game. Right now, we're still in this weird place where for whatever reason, there's not enough recognition of how important stability is to the rest of the global economy. Now, some politicians are waking up to that, but awareness is still low. What I would love to do is I would love for everybody in every constituency, in every democracy, to know exactly how much they would lose out of their pocket if their politicians failed to stop this from happening. And I'll tell you, it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot. We're talking massive inflation, gas and electricity hikes, iPhones going up like 10-fold minimum in terms of pricing, stuff not working, not being able to buy new stuff, not being able to replenish any supplies of anything that requires chips. I mean, it goes on and on. But the secondary economic effects, absolutely devastating. You know, in the Bloomberg modeling, did you see the Bloomberg modeling, the $10 trillion thing? They projected that South Korea would lose 1/3 of its GDP in a kinetic scenario. 1/3 of its GDP.
It's not a small number.
It's like, we're talking untold economic depression.
Unfathomable almost.
And cannot be allowed. But we're not in that mental zone yet where people are in the cannot be allowed zone. I think the EU is slowly waking up to it. The States have been alive to it for some time. The rest of the world, sleepwalking. They need to be woken up. That isn't going to happen until voters know. I would love voters to know that the cost to them of the political failure to deter and to de-escalate conflict, because it's politicians, yeah,
right.
Their head should be on the block.
Right. Why are some people not heeding that warning?
I think awareness is too low. There's not enough research about it. It's not been done cleverly enough. It still feels very far away to people. It feels remote.
Well,
it's like Taiwan. You know,
right.
it's miles away. You're more interested in what's going on right now. There are loads of other conflicts ongoing right now, distracting people's attention, costing us a lot of money. You know, Ukraine in the Middle East, any number of conflicts right now. A lot of instability. And I think that against that background, it is quite hard to fight for attention for these sorts of things. But awareness is still low. So honestly, I think the key to shifting the political debate on Taiwan in many countries around the world is that you get voters to realize, you get them to realize, and then their politicians will know that failing to act to prevent this clearly foreseeable disaster was their fault. And we've got to change that calculus.
Back in May, this May, you watched the Taiwanese film, A Foggy Tale, which is set against the backdrop of Taiwan's White Terror era. And as someone, you know, from the UK, what are things that struck you the most about the film?
I thought, first of all, it was a very beautiful film. It was very well made. The story was beautifully unfolded, and the performances were really good. Like, it was a genuinely really good film. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it just as a piece of art. But more than that, I don't know if this is controversial to say, but I think Taiwan is very reticent to talk about the White Terror era. We don't hear enough about it. Internationally, not much is known about it. And I think seeing it unfolding in that way remains very, very powerful, particularly for people who share that history. So there were a lot of people who were weeping during that film, Taiwanese who came to see it. I think for the benefit of those outside, what it does is like connects to the current political reality in the following way. Internationally, people do not realize the pain, the suffering that the people of Taiwan have had to go through in order to get where they are. That's not widely known. And it's important that they know, because I think the best answer to our American congressman who said they're not going to fight,
Stop.
The best answer to that is the witness of those people who passed through that era. This is why I'm so keen on, I can never remember his name in Chinese, but Nylon Cheng, the Nylon Cheng Memorial Museum. I'm going there after this. Because that's a story which expresses exactly the same thing. It expresses the desire for freedom that would bring about an ultimate sacrifice. That's a really important message for people to hear right now. And I thought the film delivered that very, very sensitively and very beautifully.
Did you actually shed a tear? A lot of people were just flat out crying in the theater where I was watching. Did you? What were some of your most, I guess, emotional moments in that scene, if you remember from that film? One scene that I remember was when they were counting. They were trying to pick out
the bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
That was very emotional.
So there were a lot of people who broke down at that point.
Yeah.
I just found that disturbing. I found it hard to watch.
It was very disturbing.
And it was particularly hard with a very young person in the room.
Or it was just generally a beautiful film.
It was a beautiful film. I mean, I don't think I'd pick out any scene as particularly moving. I mean, the aspect after that, when there's some music which plays, and then, if I remember rightly, the shot kind of comes up over a landscape, and that was a moment that was the sort of culmination of the narrative, and I was moved at that point. But I think the thing that probably moved me most was seeing, like, there are a bunch of people in the cinema who
resonated.
Well, they'd lived through it.
Right.
They were there, and I think that they were seeing reflected, quite unusually, because I don't think it's something that happens very much, that period of their lives. And seeing them moved, I think, had a knock-on effect on me as well.